Greetings, class. Welcome to week 10. I'm now recording from my home studio, not at school, so if things look a little bit different, that's why. It probably sounds different too. I've got some newfangled microphones going on here. Hopefully it will give you better sound. I'm also using a better camera. I'm trying to take the cue that some of the talk show hosts are doing and the newscasters are doing because of the coronavirus. So this is the new normal. Okay, so let's jump right into our lesson for this week. Okay, and we are going to be talking about time travel. And time travel is a common sci-fi theme, but it's not always the easiest thing to talk about in any particular film, because it creates some problems, some fun problems, but also some problems which are problematic. Okay, so we're going to talk about a few of those. So first of all, what is time travel? Well, traveling forwards or backwards in time to fix something or mess something up by trying to fix it. That's usually what ends up happening. They try to go back in time or forward in time to try to fix a problem, and it almost always seems to make things worse. But that's what we want in movies anyway, is conflict. So if things just went easy, it just wouldn't be very fun. So how does it work? Well, there's a variety of different ways. You could do the science answer, which is by manipulating the space-time continuum, utilizing extreme gravitational pull or exceeding the speed of light, which Einstein said was impossible, which suggests that we can't ever time travel. I hope he was wrong, so who knows. Or if you're going to do a less scientific way, you can try it via magic, as in Harry Potter. Remember Hermione's crazy watch that allowed her to be in 2 classes at one time? Steampunk machines, like the one that is the backdrop on this lecture. The time machine is a good example of that. You make it out of brass and diamonds and stuff like that. Wormholes. So the Star Trek reboot movie used a wormhole, and also Interstellar made that an integral part of the movie. Tangent universes, like in Donnie Darko. Phone booths or call boxes, Doctor Who, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and the various sequels. Drugs and or sensory deprivation. You literally give someone so many drugs that their minds travel back or forwards in time. So The Jacket is a good example of that, and also 12 Monkeys. Hot tubs, as in Hot Tub Time Machine. Why somebody didn't think about that sooner. And DeLoreans, as in Back to the Future. And also, you've got dwarves and time bandits. They've got a map they stole from God, and they're traveling through time, stealing things. Makes sense to me. Their actual mechanism are like time doors or something like that. But it's all about the dwarves in that movie. So why is time travel a difficult topic to tackle? There's a few different reasons for that. One is explaining the time travel mechanism. If you're going to do a time travel movie, you got to explain the time travel mechanism. And that's a little bit problematic because it takes a little while. And there's also the fact that it's going to be total BS because we haven't ever done it before. So whatever you come up with is going to be absolute fiction, but it needs to be plausible and or convincing fiction. Too much is going to be boring. Too little is suspect. You also get temporal paradoxes and causal loops, and those can end up being major plot devices in those films, but that's the sort of thing that as a writer and as a filmmaker, you need to be able to wrap your head around. So if a character meets himself or herself, does he or she cease to exist at that point? Or can a time traveler change a significant historical event, and then will it then change everything connected to it, thus creating an alternate future? Who knows? But those are all issues you have to deal with when you get those temporal paradoxes and causal loops. And the other thing is, it isn't really about science at all. A lot of science fiction isn't. It has science in it, but a lot of times we're using science as kind of a vehicle to really do cool shit with dinosaurs or save JFK. Have an age-appropriate romance. There's been a few of those movies where the guy's older and he meets a little girl, and then she gets older but he doesn't, and then age-appropriate romance. That's kind of a French theme. Or you could also see what Biff looked like as a teenager. That's really the whole point, because when he gets older, he really lets himself go. So the movie for this week is Predestination. Now, this is a film by the Spierig brothers, who also did Daybreakers, which we watched earlier in the class. That was the vampire dystopia. And it's based on the Robert Heinlein short story, All You Zombies, which I'm including along with this in the lesson pack. I'll show you where that is a little bit later. Great short story, not very long either. So our synopsis: a customer in a New York bar in 1970 tells the bartender an unbelievable story. Then they travel through time, space, and identity until they reach an inevitable yet inconceivable conclusion. That sounds like a bunch of BS, but once you start watching the movie, you kind of get it. But one thing that's kind of cool is it's almost like the premise for this film is a guy walks into a bar, which is kind of a standard joke beginning, but in a sci-fi way with time travel, strangely enough. So this requires your full attention to understand exactly what is happening. There's all kinds of temporal paradoxes and time loops, and this film just tackles them head on. Okay, a future event is the cause of a past event, which is actually the cause of the future event. So our questions for this week, and this basically deals with the characters who are in the film. Number one, who is Jane? Who is John? Who is Jane's baby? Who is the bartender? Who is the fizzle bomber? I want you to figure out who all those characters are and what their relationship to each other is. And then also, where does the story begin? Can you figure out where the story actually begins? That's a challenge. I don't know if you folks will be able to completely fulfill, but let's go for it. Number two, why did Robertson create this situation? And Robertson you meet him a couple times in the film. He's kind of the architect of this whole process. So why did he create this situation? And then how did it also create the problem it was meant to solve? Remember what I said about going back in time or forward in time to try to fix a problem, but making the problem worse? That's kind of what's happening here. So how did it create the problem it was meant to solve? Number three, was the fizzle bomber right in both his actions and last words? That's up for you to decide. There's a conversation that the fizzle bomber has with another character towards the end of the film. Judge for yourself. And number four, does Jane accomplish her life goals? She has a goal for herself, something she really wants to do, and does she actually accomplish that? And then the reading, All You Zombies by Robert Heinlein. It's on Canvas. I'm going to show you folks where that is in just a minute. Okay. All right, so if you go up here to your class, scroll down to week 10. And remember last week I broke this into weeks, which has the dates there. Click on week 10, time travel, and then you'll find the notes here, the accessible notes. This lecture will be in the top of this part right here. And then here is a PDF version of All You Zombies. And then there's also an accessible version too. And then I have a discussion here for you folks. I'll have two discussions, one about the discussion questions. The other is going to be just one talking about time travel movies. So click on here and put something in here. Got an idea for a time travel narrative? Because pretty much everybody does. Write it here and we can have discussions about that. Time travel is an interesting topic and can be a fun one to discuss. So let's have a discussion about it, okay? And here is the link to Predestination. I'm going to be having all of these going up across the semester, so you folks can watch these movies directly here. Click on it, and then as you see here, the username and password are right here. I put those on every one of them, so you folks won't get locked out. And once you do it the first time, your computer should remember, so you don't have to do it all the time. Okay. Enjoy, and I will see you folks next week, week 11.